Okay, now we're live. Good morning, everyone. If you're in Australia, good evening. If you're in the United States. Good morning, everyone. If you're in Australia, good evening. Apologies, I've got the sound going on my laptop there. Yeah, good morning, good evening. If you're in the UK, probably good night. It's about where I am, I think. Uncle Deluxe, nice to see you on here. Thanks for tuning in. So, can everyone hear me okay? I did a quick test this morning. I think everything should be right. I haven't changed anything. So, good evening, Gary. Nice to see you on here. Big shout out to Gary's Action Man channel. If you haven't checked that out, he does awesome reviews of Action Man outfits, stuff like that. So definitely check out Gary's Action Man channel. Night of Ren in Tennessee. Hello. Yeah. Okay. So let's get stuck in, shall we? Couple of things before we start. It's getting very, very hot in this part of Australia where I live. It's 42 degrees today. That's Celsius. I think for you in the States, in Fahrenheit, that's about 108. I've turned the aircon off in this room because it messes up the audio. But if I do start getting hot and sweating, I'll turn the aircon on. I've got a remote here. Okay. Christian Arias, Michael Schaefer, nice to see you, Michael. Good patron of the channel. Taz, hi Tony from Montreal. Hello, how you doing? Okay, guys. So we ran a poll on the discussion topic. As I said, probably the first half dozen live streams I'm going to do are all going to be about Action Man stuff. So I ran a poll on the Patreon page recently, and the topics that patrons could vote on were Tony's favourite outfits, Action Man outfits, the Action Man Emergency Series, the Action Man Special Team, the Action Man Team, so Bullet Man, Tombstone, Atomic Man, all those, and the Action Man Ceremonials. And the overwhelming vote was for Tony's favourite outfits. That's a really, really difficult topic for me. I don't know actually how many Action Men I have in my collection. I've got a few G.I. Joes in there, but it's well over 200. And trying to pick some favourites was quite difficult. So what I decided I would do would basically pick a couple of figures from each era. So a couple of figures from the 60s, a couple from I couldn't stick to just two from the 70s, so I've chosen three. And then the Eagle Eye era, again, I wanted to choose two, and I ended up with three. But we'll go through these sort of one at a time. Tim Hayes, hello, how you doing? Apologies, that's my other computer over there. I just got an email. I might. I was going to turn the sound off, but it's not bothering me too much. I hope it doesn't bother you guys. There's a lot going on a live stream, and it's very difficult to sort of orchestrate all this on your own. Joseph, good to see you. Is Eric here? Eric, if you're here, good to see you. I didn't see anything pop up. Oh, Uncle Deluxe. Uncle Deluxe, that's Eric. Awesome to see you here, Eric. Awesome. I'm really glad you could tune in. I know it's very, 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 very late for you where you are. So, okay, let's get stuck into the discussion topic. So, as I said, Tony's favourite Action Man outfits. That's a topic that is very difficult for me, and the ones I've chosen here today, I think if we were to sit down again next week, I may have half a dozen completely different figures on the table. But what I'm going to start with, from the very first Action Man release in 1966, is the fully loaded Action Man Combat Soldier. Now, obviously, this is just a direct copy of the G.I. Joe fully loaded Combat Soldier from Hasbro's vintage G.I. Joe line. But I love this figure. The combat field jacket, which he's wearing here over his fatigue shirt, is just such a beautifully tailored piece of Action Man clothing. It has a zip. It has 4 pockets, sort of 2 breast pockets and 2 lower pockets. Just wonderfully, wonderfully tailored. It has an inner drawstring, so when you actually put the jacket on, there's a drawstring inside that you on the cuffs. But when this guy's fully loaded, I think the thing I liked the most about Don't tell me we're not live anymore. Are we live? Are we still live, everyone? Yes, we're still live. Eric, the SAS guy on the right is cool. Yes, Eric. I'm gonna get to him a bit later on. Apologies for that, guys. I think my computer was just had a bit of a brain fart there. Yeah, so one of the things that I like most about this outfit is that it is a combination of a number of different sets, and it's really the way that, and all of the credit goes to Hasbro here in the States, because this, as I said, is a direct copy of the original G.I. Joe Combat Soldier. So by combining the bivouac set, the combat field jacket set, the field pack, I think it was called the backpack, but basically it was the way everything integrated together. So at the back here, at the bottom, he's got his poncho, and there's a strap underneath the backpack to hold the poncho in place. Inside the backpack holds the sleeping bag and the mess kit. There's a spot for the entrenching tool and cover to attach. And then the tent folds around the top of the backpack and straps on. And even in the original, I think they called it the equipment manual, it actually shows you how to properly roll up the tent and include all the tent poles inside. So all of the equipment from all these different sets, Hasbro really put a lot of thought into how it was all going to fit together. And basically, so this guy just carries a ton of equipment. So he's got his tall brown combat boots. He's got his M1 rifle. You can see at the front there, he's got a bayonet tucked into his belt. He's got grenades. He's got ammo cartridges on the belt. On the back here, he has a canteen in a removable cover. Yeah, there's just so many accessories, and when it's all compiled together, it just looks absolutely amazing. And I would probably say my favourite G.I. Joe figure is the version of it, and I do have a G.I. Joe version of this that you would have seen if you watched the collection tour video I did a number of months back. Just a fantastic figure. One of my personal favourites. I think this, as I said, if I was to pick this topic again next week, there would be a number of different figures on the table, but this is one I think that would always be there. I'm just very, very enamoured with this figure. It's really, really incredible. Henrik from Sweden, nice to see you. Tim Hayes, yeah, just buffered for a few seconds, so hopefully my internet's working good here. I hope that doesn't happen again. Apologies for being a little bit late. I went to go live and it didn't work at all, and I had to reset and start again. That's why I'm a couple of minutes late, but we'll make the time up as we go along. So the Action Man Combat Soldier, just stunning. And if you own an Action Man version of this or a G.I. Joe version of this, hang on to it. These are always going to be valuable and highly sought after, and they're getting harder and harder to replace just because there's so many accessories. The entrenching tool is very difficult to get because it had a very loose connection that broke easily. Steve back. What's going on, Tony? How you been, bro? I've been very well. So I've just come back from 3 weeks holiday. I spent 2 weeks in Thailand and a week in Perth where my son played a soccer tournament. His team didn't do fantastic, but I'm very proud of my son. He was actually one of the stars of the team. And yeah, he did really, really well. So I'm looking forward to. I'm glad soccer season's over. I help coaching quite a bit, and it takes up a lot of time. So normally in the off season from soccer, I have more free time to work on videos. Speaking of working on videos, I'm very pleased to announce that at long last, Toy Histories episode 11 is in production. It wouldn't be a live stream if I didn't pick something up from under the table. So just stepping away from Action Man for a moment, I have the Evel Knievel on his awesome chopper bike. So yeah, I'm very pleased to announce that principal photography on the history of Evel Knievel toys was finished yesterday, principal photography. Today, after the live stream, I'll be spending most of the day filming all of the B-roll and then getting into editing. I'm hoping the video drops around middle of the week for patrons, and patrons will get this for at least 48 hours exclusively before it's available on YouTube. So if you want early access to that video, head over to the Patreon page. Knights of Ren, Evil Knievel, yeah buddy, it's great. Eric Stenberg, I had the other Evil Knievel on the white bike. So the white bike, that was the stunt cycle, that was the most popular one, and that's definitely making an appearance in this video. I actually do quite a big segment just on the stunt cycle. Eric, didn't you say you served in the Australian or British Army? I served in both. Uncle Deluxe, staggering that represents an accurate amount of gear with which World War II soldiers were sent out into the field. Yes, it does, man. And that's probably one of the things I like about it the most. It's a very realistic rendition of all the equipment that they had to carry. And Hasbro did put a lot of thought into this. You know, he has a mess kit with a knife, fork and spoon. There's also there's a cooker available, which I don't believe he's got in this backpack. That doesn't quite fit. But yeah, he's got his water canteen, grenades, ammunition, sleeping bag, poncho, tent, the whole works, entrenching tool, the helmet, which this one's got the netting on it, which is very, very hard to get today. Yeah, the stunt cycle. So, I think just before I move on to the next one, no, I'm going to move on to the next figure first before I've got a couple of little bits of news I want to discuss. All right, so the next figure, this beautiful, absolutely beautiful, let's give you a good close-up look at that, is the Action Man Mountaineer from, I believe, 1968. This has got all the high altitude equipment. Most of the parts of this are original. There are a couple of 40th anniversary parts. For you Action Man collectors out there, you'll know actually how difficult it is. Not so much to get the Mountaineer, but to get the high altitude equipment set that goes with him, which is all this this oxygen mask that sort of and the tanks that strap up on the top of the backpack there. So the reason that I picked this as my second favourite 60s Action Man is because, so the first couple of years of Action Man with the Action Soldier, Sailor and Pilot, and then onto the Soldiers of the Century or the Soldiers of the World, whatever it was called, they were all just they brought the G.I. Joe outfits to the UK. They made some slight variations to them, but basically they were Hasbro designed outfits that were repackaged into Action Man packaging, slightly redesigned, you know, slightly different materials and that for the uniforms, but generally the same outfit. So it wasn't until around, I think it was 68 or 69, that Palitoy decided to branch off and start making their own Action Man products. And that really started with the Action Man, I think they call it like the Explorer series. So you had the Polar Explorer, the Jungle Explorer, and the Mountaineer. And one of the benefits of calling the toy Action Man as opposed to G.I. Joe, well, Action Man didn't have to be military. The term Action Man, you know, he was a man of action. He could do anything. And that name enabled Palitoy to really branch off away from military and go into more adventure type stuff. I know Hasbro did it later with the Adventure Team, but Action Man really did it first. And this particular outfit, for me, I love the addition of the Union Jack flag on the anorak there. I think you call it an anorak, you know, the top he's wearing. You know, it made it very, very British. Now, this outfit was designed by Palitoy's Action Man's chief designer, Bob Breakin, a very good friend of mine. And yeah, as I said, the reason I chose this is one of the first examples of when Palitoy started to move away from the Hasbro products and start making Action Man into a British product, which they would later really, really cement with the introduction of like the ceremonials, like the blues and rolls here, but we'll get onto those in a moment. Just going to catch up with some comments here. Yeah, Eric Steinberg, looks like the kits Sir Edmund Hillary used on Mount Everest. Yes, very, very similar, I imagine. Gary's Action Man channel, the Mountaineer outfit shows Action Man, not just military. Exactly, and for anyone who knows anything about Action Man, as the years progressed, he would go off into all sorts of realms: sportsman, the emergency series with policemen and firemen and all that kind of thing, and really a very diverse range of toys that didn't. It was always, I'd say probably 70% of the line was always military, but you had some really cool diversions from that. Like in the last live stream, the Action Man Space Rangers. Oh, Michael Mercy took the words out of my mouth. And the Space Rangers. Great to see you on here, Michael. Yeah, and great to see Eric and Joseph on here as well. Carlos Escobar, hello. How you doing? Peter Ang, Thundercats. Ho. Okay. Peter Ang, do you have Thundercats collection? I recently got into the original 1980s Thundercats. The only Thundercats item that I own is a t-shirt. I didn't really have any Thundercats when I was a kid. I never really watched the cartoon, and I don't really have much of an opinion on it. It's never, for some reason, it was one of those franchises. Like, I was a child of the 80s, but it was just one of those franchises that for some reason I missed. I don't know if I will ever do a video on Thundercats because, yeah, it's not on my radar really. Tony, was Big Jim a direct response to G.I. Joe and Action Man? Yes, I believe so. I believe that Mattel. Oh, Mezzed Up, thank you so much for the super chat. I'll get to your question in 1 second. Let me just finish answering Eric's question. Was Big Jim a direct response to G.I. Joe and Action Man? Yes, it was. So obviously Big Jim was produced by Mattel. Mattel really had the girls market cornered, and probably still do with Barbie. So they really wanted to compete against Hasbro and Palitoy, and that's why they brought out Big Jim. Another fantastic toy line, which I really hope to do a video on one day. Mezzed Up, hey Tony, glad I could catch this live stream. Cheers from Los Angeles. Mezzed Up, thank you so much for the super chat, man. I really appreciate it. Night of Ren, I'm 20 years old, so I'm a younger collector, but my dad had some flocked hair and bearded G.I. Joe figures. He had maybe 2 or 3 of those when he was a kid. Night of Ren, I'm really pleased to see a 20-year-old collector who's got an interest in the vintage 12-inch G.I. Joe and Action Man, because these are hands down the best toys ever made in the world. That's my opinion. If you disagree, that's fine. Whatever you think is your favourite toy, that's entirely up to you. But these are my favourites. Uncle Lou, born in 77 here. Uncle Lou was born in 74. Tim Hayes, born in 77. Well, so was I, mate. I'm a June 1977 child. Peter Ang, I'm a younger collector too. I'm like 17 years old. Oh, wow. Peter Ang, 17 years old. Awesome to see some younger viewers on here. Eric Stenberg, I had Bullet Man from the Big Jim lineup. Sorry to tell you, Eric, Bullet Man was from the G.I. Joe lineup, not the Big Jim lineup. And he also appeared in the Action Man lineup as part of the Action Man team with Atomic Man. All the questions are coming thick and fast now. Matthew Payne, if I wanted to start collecting Action Man figures, how much do they usually sell for? Matthew Payne, that is such an open-ended question. It's so difficult to answer. They made so many different outfits from 1966 right through to 1984. Some are rare, some aren't. You can pick up some basic figures, for, nice dress figures for about 40, 50 pounds sterling. But, you can get up into the thousands. It's a very difficult question to answer. Sorry if I missed your questions, guys. I'm just watching myself back on the live stream here, and I'm doing all this with my hands. I'll try and stop that. Very animated here. Michael Mercy. Sorry, Michael, your question went straight past. Chris Burns is asking me, hey buddy, have I got a Solar Hurricane yet? No, I haven't. Now I've been focusing my collecting recently on Evil Knievel stuff, and if I diverge and go and spend a heap of money on a Solar Hurricane, one of the things with the Solar Hurricane, it's a very big vehicle. They don't turn up in Australia very often, if at all. So I'd have to purchase it from the UK, and I'm not willing to spend more than $100 just on shipping. So that kind of steers me away from Action Man vehicles these days. I don't tend to collect many vehicles. Peter Ang, I noticed there isn't a Thundercats and G.I. Joe crossover. There should be one. Maybe there should. If they crossed over with G.I. Joe, maybe I would get into Thundercats. So, but again, let's just finish off discussing the Action Man Mountaineer. Some really awesome, intricate detail here. You see on the side, he's got all his carabiners. I'm not sure if they're pitons or crampons. The ones on the feet, basically like the spikes that they hammer into the side of the rock to thread all their rope through. He's got a climbing axe and a hammer, an awesome backpack, a helmet, and this is just a wonderful figure. And again, I think with the introduction of the orange, I'm going to call it an anorak. I think that's what the Brits call it, an anorak. The introduction of the orange fabric of the anorak really, really makes this pop on a collector's shelf. And one of my favourite shelves from the 60s is the Explorers, because this guy was in like brown and orange. The Polar Explorer was in red and blue. And it really sort of stands out from the more military guys that I've got on the shelf above, which is my Soldiers of the Century guys. Sean Spencer, hi Tony, how was Bangkok? Well, I only spent one night in Bangkok with my father, and I must say it was pretty good because I don't remember the second half of the evening. Eric Stenberg, may you ask me why I moved to Australia? Yeah, of course you can, mate. I moved to Australia when I was 11 years old because my family wanted to emigrate. My dad applied to emigrate in around 1985, 86. He was working in the UK. He's an engineer. He was working for a big bread manufacturing company. It's a bakery, but not like your small bakery. It was manufactured bread on a very large scale. But being an engineer and working in sort of production type factories, he applied to emigrate to Australia. It took a couple of years to get it approved, but he just wanted to go and live somewhere sunny where it wasn't raining all the time. And they brought me here in 1988, and that's how I ended up in Australia. Eric Stenberg, I think those spikes are called pitons. Yeah, so they're pitons, and like the grips on the soles of the feet are the crampons. Knight of Ren, as far as vintage toys go, I mainly collect Kenner Star Wars, but I love learning new things about other vintage toy lines. That's awesome, mate. The best thing you can do if you're a toy collector is educate yourself, and even on toy lines that you're not interested in, because as the years go on, sometimes you might sort of catch a deal on a big lot of stuff that might have, there might be a lot of stuff in there that you want for your collection, but there may be a few pieces that are from some other toy line. And if you're educated and you know what it is, you might make a good deal on a bulk collection and be able to resell the other stuff if you know what you're looking at. So educate yourself on all toy lines. So, as I said, this outfit was designed by Action Man's chief designer, Bob Breakin. I do a segment about this toy in my Action Man documentary, The Story of Action Man, where Bob actually sort of discusses, I think he went to some mountaineering association to get all the information and photos of all the equipment. Peter Ang, I don't want to collect too much. I must wait until I finish school. Yeah, wait until you finish school, mate, and get a full-time job, and then you can blow all your money on vintage toys. So, speaking of Bob Breakin, I've got some news. I've advertised this on the Facebook page, but I want to do a big shout out to Bob Breakin. So, the Many Faces of Palatoy, which is an exhibition being held. Where's it held? At the Hartwood Conference Centre, Rothley House, Jackson Street, Colville. So the Many Faces of Palatoy is an exhibition of the 100 years of Castleoid and Palatoy's toys, games and dolls. It opened yesterday. What's the date today? No, it opens today, the 12th of October, and it runs through to the 10th of November. It's open 10 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Admission is free. If you're in the UK and you can get yourself to Colville between now and the 10th of November, I highly recommend paying a visit and checking out the Many Faces of Palatoy. And anyone who liked my Action Force Robo Skull video, There's a big display there on sort of how Bob Breakin developed the Robo Skull toy. So big shout out to Bob Breakin, big shout out to all the former Palatoy employees and anyone who's putting any time and effort into this exhibition. It's going to be fantastic. Bob sent me some great photos yesterday, which I might put up on the Facebook page later on. Definitely get yourselves out there and check it out. Tony, sorry, this is from Eric Stenberg again. Tony, was the release of the German Soldier controversial when it came out? No, it wasn't. You know, sensibilities back in the 60s were a little bit different. Well, speaking of the German Soldier, let's get him out, because that's sort of getting into the next era here. So the German Soldier did actually come out in the 60s, but I've picked my favourite, which is from the early 70s, because I think this figure looks so much better on the flocked-haired figure, and of course he's got to be blonde, he's Aryan. I don't know how well you can see this, but the side of the helmet there, apologies if this symbol offends anyone, it's a toy, it's a piece of history. But there's actually a swastika on the bottom of the badge on the side of the helmet, which over the years Palatoy actually phased out, and later models of this helmet, the swastika is omitted. Let me just get his helmet back on there. So no, it wasn't controversial when it was first released. As I said, toy sensibilities back in the 60s were quite different. Something that was controversial, I'm going to pull something out from below the table. Something that was controversial was in 1974 when Palatoy introduced the Escape from Colditz set. And the reason this was so controversial is because of the swastika being emblazoned onto the packaging. But the reason I have this down here, I was just wondering if anyone was going to ask, what I've got on the table are my favourite Action Man outfits on dressed figures. This probably isn't my favourite outfit on a dressed figure because, well, it's just not up there with my favourites. But when we talk about carded outfits and packaging art, this is one of my favourites, simply because I just absolutely love the card art on the back showing Colditz Castle there. So yeah, so this was quite controversial when this came out in 1964 because of the inclusion of the swastika on the packaging. So is the picture quality okay on this live stream? I seem to be streaming. Oh yeah, it says it's streaming in 720p. It's just not on my screen like that. So Gary's Action Man channel. The Japanese soldier in the G.I. Joe range was not released in the UK. 100% correct. I've got the G.I. Joe Japanese Imperial Soldier. So in the G.I. Joe line, the 6 soldiers of the world, or soldiers of the century, I always get confused with those two. The 6 of them were the French resistance fighter, the German stormtrooper, the Russian infantry, the Japanese Imperial Soldier, the British commando, and the Australian jungle fighter. And they released separately as part of the Action Soldier line, the Green Beret. So when they released this line in the UK, no one really knows why they didn't introduce the Japanese Soldier. There are some theories. There's a good theory from Action Man's brand manager that I don't believe made it into the documentary, but it is discussed maybe in the bonus features, I think. But yeah, so when they brought that line of 6 outfits to the UK for Action Man, they dropped the Japanese Imperial Soldier, and then they took the Green Beret from the G.I. Joe Action Soldier line and inserted that as a 6th figure. So they swapped out the Japanese Imperial Soldier for the Green Beret. But yeah, I have to say that the Action Man German Stormtrooper is a favourite among many, many collectors. It's a beautiful uniform, very, very iconic. As I said, it first came out in the 60s, but my favourite incarnation is this early 70s one with the Action Man with the flocked hair. One mistake that Palatoy, or not Palatoy because this was originally designed by Hasbro, but one minor mistake they made, the ammunition pouches on the belt are actually ammunition pouches for a Mauser rifle, but the German Stormtrooper, the German Stormtrooper doesn't come with a Mauser rifle, he comes with an MP40 machine pistol. This was corrected later on in the Action Man line in sort of 78, 79 with like the Africa Corps, where they kept the ammunition pouches, but they dropped the MP40 and actually gave him the Mauser rifle, so that the ammunition pouches matched the firearm that he was carrying. Michael Mercy, crystal clear. Thank you very much, mate. I was a little bit concerned that the picture quality wasn't good. It's just on mine, but I won't fiddle around with it. I'll leave it like that. I'm talking to you guys, not watching myself anyway. So, Peter Dunlap. I collect vintage GI Joe action team. I have some playsets, vehicles, and 5 figures, mostly from the 1970s. That's awesome, Peter. Keep collecting. GI Joe action team or adventure team is not something that I collect as yet. I've had a couple of pieces over the years which I've always traded for other Action Man stuff. I'm more into the 60s military GI Joe, but that's not to say that I don't like it, and I'm often tempted to start collecting GI Joe, but that's adventure team GI Joe, but that's a very, very big rabbit hole to go down. And for me to do a video review on that, well, I think that would be a long way off. What I would like to do is maybe get one of the major pieces, like the I can't remember what it was called. There was a big yellow vehicle for the adventure team. If anyone remembers the name, stick it up there. I'm sure Joseph knows the name. There was a big yellow vehicle for the adventure team. I would like to pick up something like that and just do a one-off review of that particular toy, because that toy was incredible. Yes, but the German Stormtrooper, he comes with an Iron Cross medal, and I believe that, again, this is a bit of a design mistake. I think the ribbon is actually from a World War I medal, not a World War II medal. He comes with 2 potato masher grenades. You can't quite see, but underneath the grenades there, he's got a Luger pistol in a holster. See the MP40 machine pistol, the jack boots, and then a backpack. But unlike the combat soldier, they didn't fill him out with all these accessories that he could fill that backpack up. This one's empty. We used to take the sleeping bag from the special operations kit and stick those into my Action Man backpacks. Yeah, so that's the Action Man German soldier from 1970. 1970 was when they first brought in the flocked hair. Okay. How are we going for top? Bloody hell. Oops. Excuse me. 35 minutes into this already. Okay. I was going to make this an hour-long live stream, but if we push to an hour and a half, I'm fine with that. Chris Burns. Being from Norway, I loved the Arctic Patrol outfit as a kid, as it was very close to the World War II Norwegian snowtroopers. What do you think of that outfit? Chris Burns, that's another personal favourite that almost ended up on the table. Probably one of the reasons I didn't is it's with the skis and the ski poles, it's not easy to actually pick up and move around in a live stream. So probably a poor excuse not to be on one of my favourite outfits list. But the proof is in the pudding. I actually have 2 of them. I have an Action Man one and a G.I. Joe one, which if you look back at my collection tour video I did a while ago, I think I called it the 2019 collection tour update. You'll see in the cabinet that I've actually got 2 of those. Any outfit that I've got 2 of, it's because I kind of like it. Do you have any Mego Star Trek figures? I see the Marvel ones behind you. Yes, I do. Eric, here's all my Mego Star Trek, and a while ago I actually did a video called The Origin of Mego Star Trek. I'm very proud of that video. Please go onto my channel page and look back through the back catalogue of videos and check that video out. Okay, where are we up to? All right. So another bit of news before we move on to the next 2 quite impressive figures here. So this is the second live stream. Same as the last one. I've done this at 8 AM on a Saturday morning in WA, which is around 1 AM in the morning in the UK and 8 PM in the United States. So it's not a very good viewing time for UK viewers being on at 1 AM in the morning. So what I'm looking to do, and please don't write anything in in the live chat. Leave actually after this video gets uploaded. Go and leave me a comment underneath the video. What I'm proposing is the next live stream I'm going to do at 8 p.m. my time. So if I do that at 8 p.m. on a Saturday night in WA, that will be 1 p.m. just after lunch in the UK and 8 a.m. in the morning for the United States. I think that's a pretty good time where US viewers can tune in, UK viewers can tune in, and it's not too late in the evening for me to actually run a live stream. So, yeah, let me know in the comments section below this video. I'm really interested. What do you guys think if the next live stream airs at 8 p.m. for me, 8 a.m. US time, and then 1 p.m. sort of Saturday afternoon for UK viewers? I think your clocks go back. Obviously, in the UK, they have daylight savings. I think the clocks go back. So when the clocks go back, it'll be 12 p.m. lunchtime. So, Eric Stenberg, you're asking me loads of questions, man. Thanks for getting involved. It makes the live stream so much more interesting, and I've got questions to answer rather than just dribbling on for an hour and a half. So there were only an Australian action figure, no Anzac figures. No, well, they didn't call it an Anzac, but it pretty much is. Well, the Anzacs were really World War One, and Palitoy's Action Man never really delved into anything World War One that I can think of. If I'm wrong, please correct me. But it was mainly sort of World War Two and then 1950s, 1960s type stuff. And then obviously later on into modern stuff with the SAS, which we'll get onto. Excuse me if I'm sniffing a little bit. I've been a bit under the weather this week. I'm feeling much better today. I actually started feeling better yesterday, but yeah, if I end up coughing or sneezing, I apologise. Yorktown Joe, Saturday morning would be fine here in Wisconsin. That's great to know. I really want to readjust the time because I think it's very unfair for the UK viewers to have this airing at 1 a.m. There's a lot of, obviously Action Man comes from the UK, so there's a lot of viewers who are interested in these live streams who either have to catch the replay or stay up really late to watch this. Steedback, do you like the new Star Wars movies? I didn't mind are you talking about the recent one? I didn't mind The Force Awakens. I quite enjoyed the Force Awakens. Rogue One was pretty good. Solo, a Star Wars story, I would just call that bland. And The Last Jedi, I watched it once and it's really put me off Star Wars. I don't think I can ever even sit through that movie again. I really didn't like The Last Jedi. Henrik, sounds good time-wise. Nice warm-up for the 3 p.m. football. Oh, okay, that's perfect. Yeah, get a live stream in before the 3 p.m. football in the UK. Eric Stenberg, may I ask what figures you had as a kid? What figures I had as a kid? Well, I'm going to skip over some of the 70s ones now. I had a number of outfits when I was a kid, but one of the reasons that I put this guy on the table... Whoops. Now, some people may think this is an unusual choice for one of my favourite outfits, but this comes from the Action Man Emergency series, and this is called the Underground Rescue. One of the reasons this is my favourites is not only do I think the outfit really pops with the orange jumpsuit and then the yellow rope ladder and climbing rope. Let's put his lantern back in his hand, and then obviously the white helmet, which has a nice inclusion of a torch on the front. But this is one of the last outfits I remember getting as a child, and I think I just have such a strong childhood connection. I have such fond memories of getting this outfit when I was a kid that I had to include this in my favourite outfits. As I said, I really like outfits that stand out on a shelf as well, and the yellow and the orange, it really pops. It really stands out. Got some awesome accessories. The rope ladder with this thing is absolutely amazing. Like the way it's all been tied together. There's a grappling hook and then a long rope ladder, so Action Man could throw this up somewhere or hook this on and climb down to underground rescue somebody. So there you go. So that's why I've got him on the table. Maybe, yeah, I think some people might think that's an unusual choice for a favourite outfit, but there you go. Gary's Action Man channel, Underground Rescue, very difficult to complete. Yes, it is, surprisingly difficult to complete. I got this figure a while ago, and the side of the helmet had yellowed quite badly. I went to undo the rubber chin strap one day to put it in some bleach and try and de-yellow it. And as I was taking off the rubber chin strap, the knob on the side that holds the chin strap actually broke off. So I ended up biting the bullet and I went out and purchased a new helmet. But yes, it's very, very difficult to complete. And one of the last Action Man Emergency Series outfits that I was able to acquire. RC, it reminds me of Bill Oddie's potholing costume from the dinosaur episode of The Goodies. Not enough pockets though. There you go. Alright, let's get on to some of the most iconic and beautiful Action Man sets ever made. So, they were advertised as the famous British regiments, but nowadays collectors refer to these sets as the ceremonials. So there was a number of these outfits. It started off with the Grenadier Guard, then you had the Argyll and Sutherland Highlander, the Life Guard, the Blues and Roars that I've got here, and the 17th 21st Lancer. There was also a Dress Royal Marine, and then later on in the line we got the Royal Hussar. I couldn't choose a favourite from the ceremonials, so I had to really choose two. So the first one that I've got here is the 17th 21st Lancer. Again, I have two of these in my collection. Any figure that I'm really fond of, I have two of. So I have one on horseback in the display cabinet and then one sort of standing upright like this. And this is just a beautiful, beautiful uniform. The lance comes in two pieces and is very, very difficult to acquire today because sort of the connecting socket would often break off. He has spurs on the back of his boots, which are very easily broken. On the back, I think that the pouch there is called a cartouche. It's basically an ammunition pouch. And then all the intricate, the yellow lanyard that sort of runs through his helmet and through his epaulets, and then the plume on the side of the helmet. These are very fragile outfits. They display beautifully, but they probably weren't really designed for kids to play with. Because any kid who had these when you know, back in the 70s, most likely they got broken pretty badly. So they're very, very difficult to acquire today, and I just love these. I love these outfits. So the 17th 21st Lancer is a personal favourite. I really love this uniform. What do you guys think of this uniform? Gary's Action Man channel, congratulations mate, he's saying that he recently got this outfit complete very recently. Sean Spencer, yeah, I was going to soak that helmet in hydrogen peroxide, but as I said, when I took I didn't want to put the rubber chin strap into the hydrogen peroxide, and as I took it off, it broke the knob off the side, so I just had to replace the helmet. Michael Mercy, love it, very elegant. Yes, it is a very, very elegant outfit. A real classic of the Action Man line. So let's get up to my next, and this is really probably up in my sort of number 1 or 2 Action Man figures of all time. The Blues and Royals. This is just gorgeous. Again, I have 2 of these. These sets came... if you bought the boxed figure, it came with all the breastplate armor. If you bought the carded outfit, it didn't have the breastplate armor. So, again, as I said, a lot of my favourite outfits I have 2 of. Well, I've got one with the breastplate armor and one without. The one without is just standing on his own. But I thought I'd show you guys how awesome this looks on horseback. This figure is just incredible. The horse was sold separately. I mean, even the horse, all the intricate detail in the saddle and the reins and everything. You'll see on this side that he comes with his cavalry saber, which actually comes out of the scabbard. So that's the saber there for the Blues and Royals. Once again, a very, very difficult set to find complete. Often the spurs on the boots are broken. Parts of the breastplate armour are either broken or completely missing. The plume on the helmet tends to break off very, very easily. If you get one of these and the plume on the helmet has been repaired, don't be too disappointed. I've got one that's complete and one that is repaired, and I'm pretty happy to have that. Michael Mercy, that's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. I completely agree, mate. A stunning uniform, so quintessentially British as well. You know, these are the soldiers and the outfits that people, you know, when tourists go to London and they go to Buckingham Palace, they'll see soldiers dressed like this along with the Grenadier Guards. And you can also, for those American viewers, if you ever do head to the UK and you are doing the tourism thing around London, don't just do Buckingham Palace. Actually go down to the Household Cavalry Barracks. It's not too far from Buckingham Palace, where you will see these guys. They actually have two sentry boxes at the entrance to the Household Cavalry Barracks in London, which are often guarded by two guys on horseback in these sentry boxes. You can go up there, you can get pictures taken with them. I highly recommend it. As I said, quintessentially British, a beautiful outfit, and something that just no other toy line in the history of toys, I believe, has ever produced anything quite like this. There are companies out there today that produce items of this quality. I mean, you take like Hot Toys and stuff, but they are collectibles. They're not aimed at kids. These were sold in the 70s for kids for, you know, minimal cost. Yeah, I can't think of any other toy line that's ever manufactured anything even close to the magnificent, beautiful product that's sitting here before you today. I'm gushing now. I'm going to put this away and move on to something else. All right, another, well, not so much a bit of news, but I want to do a huge shout out to my buddies at Retro Blasting. Guys, this is a great weekend for live streams. Obviously, you're watching this one now, but at 2 p.m. tomorrow, I think that's US Eastern Standard Time, 2 p.m. Saturday afternoon, Retro Blasting are doing a live stream. That'll be 2 a.m. in the morning for me, so I don't think I'm going to catch it live, but I'll definitely be watching the replay. And I highly recommend, guys, if it's not the middle of the night for you and you are available, definitely tune in and watch the Retro Blasting live stream. It's always great fun. John Stinsman, they will never make toys of this quality and caliber at retail ever again. You're 100% right, mate. They won't. And even if you look at the sort of the history of the Action Man line, when we got into the early 80s, they didn't make stuff not quite like this. You know, it really did. It evolved. It changed. Peter Dunlap, Retro Blasting is a great channel. It completely is, mate. That's why I just gave them a big shout out and sort of plugged their live stream for tomorrow. Tim Hayes, gotta love Retro Blasting. And actually, who saw their latest video on Space Lego? I absolutely love that video. Great work, Michael. Really good. Mitch, 80s Kid Toy Hunter. Have you ever seen BMX Bandits? Yes, I have, a long time ago. I think Nicole Kidman was in it, maybe. Don't really remember it, but I do know that I did watch it when I was a kid. And my memory tells me that I liked it as well. The Skull Reviews, awesome collection you have. Thank you very much, mate. Skull Reviews, great to see you on here, guys. That's another awesome YouTube channel you should check out, is Skull Reviews. Uncle Deluxe, Eric, I'm so curious how you think the 12-inch Joes that came out in the late 90s, early 2000s compare to vintage Action Man Joes. They're good products, but they don't hold a candle to the vintage stuff. The vintage stuff was just made with such a higher level of quality. Going back to the original fully loaded combat soldier here, just the quality of the dressmaking back then, and even that tapered off through Action Man. You know, as we got into the late 70s and early 80s, the quality of the fabrics got cheaper. You know, there wasn't as much time and energy invested into the stitching and the tailoring. They kind of took shortcuts with, you know, stick-on labels and that kind of thing. Ryan Grissom, hi Tony, glad I tuned in this evening from Nashville, Tennessee. Ryan, I'm really glad that you tuned in as well, mate. Really pleased to see you on here. Henrik, Toy Polloi is a good channel as well. Those Brits know how to make nice toy vids. Toy Polloi is actually a very good friend of mine. We've never met in person, but we chat very often. Dave from Toy Polloi is a really good guy, and 100%, let's give a shout out to Toy Polloi. He's been going a lot longer than me, and I actually really appreciate a couple of years ago when my channel was really just getting started. He did a video called What Toy Polloi is Watching on YouTube. Basically where he did like a 10-minute video and plugged about 4 or 5 channels, telling his audiences the kind of videos that he watched. And he gave a big shout out to Analog Toys, and I remember that video pushed me over my first 1,000 subscribers. So I always appreciate Dave for that that early boost in sort of advertising or whatever you want to call it, and really generating some awareness for my channel. All right, guys, it's starting to warm up a little bit here. I'm starting to sweat a little bit, but I'm going to refrain from putting on the aircon because, as I said, it messes up the audio. But we'll see how we go. As we get closer towards Christmas in Australia, it gets even hotter. So maybe the next live stream, in which will probably be in about 3 or 4 weeks' time, if it's starting to get really, really warm, we may just have to put up with it and put the aircon on, and the quality of the audio goes down. But there you go. Eric Stenberg, Toy Polloi is awesome. I couldn't have said it better myself, mate. Gen X is asking, what is my favourite scale? Well, Action Man's my favourite toy line of all time, so my favourite scale is the 1/6 scale, the 12-inch figures. Although I am very fond of 3 3/4 inch figures as well. That's probably my second favourite scale. And I'm not, when I say that, it's my personal favourite. I'm not saying that I think the 12-inch scale is better than the 3 3/4 inch scale, because when you take something like Star Wars couldn't, well, they did make some 12-inch Star Wars figures, but obviously they didn't sell very well. So after, they made a series for the first movie, and then I think only 1 or 2 figures for The Empire Strikes Back, and they dropped it because the 3 3/4 inch scale was much better. It didn't suit that brand, because if you were to make take the large scale Star Wars figures like your Han Solo and your Chewbacca, imagine if they made a Millennium Falcon to fit those figures. A kid couldn't buy it. It'd be bigger than the USS flag. It would be enormous. It would be priced out of everyone's budget. So Kenner made a very wise choice when they opted for the 3 3/4 inch scale, so that they could make the X-Wings, the TIE Fighters, the Millennium Falcon, and all that, and make them in a scale and at a price point where parents and children could afford them. So, a great choice. Woodman 29, Mr. Mercy is in the house. His channel is fantastic as well. Yes, it is. Another fantastic channel. And Michael Mercy, another friend that I've never actually met, but he's a good brother and a good friend, and I'm always pleased to see him on here. Eli Jones, have you checked out the 21st Century Toys Ultimate Soldier line? Yes, I have. They were sort of coming out in the 90s. I think I owned 1 or 2, but again, I'm all about the vintage. I don't really collect the modern stuff, but 21st Century stuff was pretty good for its time. There are other companies around now that are doing even better stuff. Michael Mercy, curious which type of stand you prefer. The kind that pinches the waist, or the Hot Toy style that cradles the figure by the legs? I'm not sure, Michael. I don't have any. I know what you're talking about with the Hot Toy style where it cradles the figure by the legs. I've always had the ones that go by the waist, and I kind of like these. I'm not sure which I prefer, because maybe I should try and pick up some of the Hot Toys stands and have a go. I think maybe for Action Man, there's probably going to be a few times where it would be better suited to some other figures to have it cradling the legs. Potentially, I'll put some thought into that, and I'll let you know. Okay. Henrik, that's nice to hear. Toy collectors in general are nice guys from my experience. When you hit a certain age, you learn to tune out the Instagram type of drama, I guess. I completely agree. I think toy collectors in general are very nice guys. Often I find that toy dealers aren't. You know, there are some good genuine dealers out there. A lot of the really good dealers that I've met over the years are also collectors. Guys who are solely toy dealers aren't always the nicest of guys, but there you go. Michael Mercy, I prefer the waist pinching ones. They allow for more dynamic poses. Yeah, they do. And actually, I've got one. Excuse me, I'm gonna do a Michael from Retroblasting here and get up. I'm just gonna grab something to show you guys. 2 seconds. I don't have very far to walk, so. Okay, here we have the 60s Action Man astronaut. And the reason I wanted to go and grab this, because as Michael Mercy just said, he prefers the waist pinching stands as they allow for more dynamic poses. And what I did here is I took a waist pinch stand and extended it. So actually, the astronaut could be suspended as though he's in the vacuum of space. So I sort of modified this myself and made my own sort of extension here using the waist clip from another stand. Yeah, made an extension, and I just love the way that displays, and just, you know, give him a little knock and he. Yeah, I just think it looks excellent the way that suit displays. So there you go. No Swearingen. Awesome lineup, Tony. Big fan. Thanks. Sorry, not Noel. Noah. Thanks, Noah. Appreciate it. Michael Mercy. Great idea. Love how he wobbles a bit too, as if he's in space. Yeah, that's what I really, really like. The effect it gives off when he's, you know, when you first sit him on the shelf and he just sort of wobbles for a minute. I get transfixed by it, almost hypnotised. Peter Ang. I wish there was some modern O-ring figures today. Yes, so do I. So do I. But you know, as I said, I'm also very fond of the 3 3/4 inch scale, particularly the Action Force and G.I. Joe O-ring style figures. I think they're great. John Stinsman, have you ever taken a trip to the US to travel to all of our vintage toy stores here? No, I went to the US once after Hurricane Katrina. When I was in the military, I went there helping with the cleanup. We actually we had a training exercise planned. We were going to Fort Polk in Louisiana as well, where we were planning to go, and then Hurricane Katrina hit, and the unit I was in the British military decided that they were gonna, rather than cancel the exercise due to the hurricane, we were going to go over there and just render assistance. So that's my only visit to the US. I'm not making any promises here, but I would really, really like to head to Atlanta in the US next year. And maybe even appear as a guest at either Toylanta or Joe Fest. I'd like to maybe do a presentation on Action Man. I've got a few friends who keep asking me to go, and it's within the realm of possibility, but I just have to see how the finances go and if I can get time off work and all that kind of thing. But potentially, I'm looking at maybe visiting the US in June next year and heading to like the Atlanta area. Bill Pagan, sorry, just jumped into this. Your display looks awesome. Good job. Thanks, Bill Pagan. Awesome to see you on here. Bill's another huge fan of the channel. He always pops up, leaves very, very kind comments, and really just, you know, he's one of those supporters of the channel who is the reason I do this. You know, he appreciates what I do. He's a great guy, and it's great to see you. Great to see you on here, Bill. Henrik, is repro stuff a big deal among Action Man collectors? It's usually a hot topic and sort of frowned upon in other circles. Well, there's a lot of Action Man collectors who flat out refuse to collect anything repro. Action Man reproduction has been around for a while. I know, like in the late 90s, early 2000s, you were able to pick up, you know, small repro items. A lot of the medals on some of the earlier figures could be picked up reproduction, but collectors who know what they're talking about can tell the difference between original and repro. So there are guys out there who refuse to collect it, but they don't seem to have an issue with what came out then. And then, of course, in 2006, a whole range of reproduction stuff came out. The Action Man 40th anniversary series, licensed reproduction. It was licensed by Hasbro, so it's a little bit like the Hasbro retro collection stuff. Yeah, there are a lot of collectors out there. I've got a few reproduction pieces in my collection, but I prefer to have everything original. The reproduction stuff, there's only one piece I've ever been sold that was reproduction that I didn't know about. I got ripped off once, and I've been collecting since 1994. That's one time in all those years. But yeah, it certainly isn't as hot of a topic as it is in, say, the Star Wars collecting community. I think the Action Man guys tend to more sort of live and let live. You know, people know what's what. You know, experienced collectors know what's repro and what isn't. And, you know, if you don't want to collect it, don't collect it. If other people want to, and, you know, because they can't afford the exorbitant prices for things like, you know, a full vintage Blues and Rules uniform on a dressed horse, that's a very expensive piece to collect. Pick up a 40th anniversary one. It costs a fraction of the price. Well, actually, they're going up in price a bit now, but it costs a lot less, and, you know, people who haven't got the budget to spend on the originals still have the opportunity to acquire one of those, you know, long lost pieces from childhood. So, Gary's Action Man channel. I use 40th carded outfits in my videos combined with vintage outfits and figures. Exactly, yeah. I don't feel like the Action Man collecting community is as... my mind's going to blank. I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but they're not. Yeah, they don't seem to be as strict on it. As a general rule, I'm sure there are some people out there who are just totally anti-repro, like there are a lot in the Star Wars collecting community, but yeah, not as prevalent in the Action Man collecting community, which I think makes it a very enjoyable community to be a part of. Eli Jones, where do you get most of your figures from? Michael Mercy, elitist. That's the word I was looking for. Action Man collectors, I don't believe, are as elitist as some other collectors of other toy lines. Sorry, Eli Jones, where do you get most of your figures? Well, these days I don't actually collect that much Action Man stuff. I've got such a vast collection that I'm really purchasing stuff from other lines. Like the last few months, all I've been buying is Evel Knievel stuff. But obviously eBay, but then... Guys, if you're looking to start a collection or add to your Action Man collection, I would recommend the best place to go is onto Facebook and look up the Vintage Action Man Collectors group. It's a really great community, and you get far better deals because they're not having to pay a percentage of their sales to eBay or anything like that. So there's some really reliable sellers on there, and I highly recommend... the Vintage Action Man Collectors group on Facebook is probably the best place to pick up Vintage Action Man stuff today. Uncle Deluxe, it seems to me that as time goes on, collectors will need to open to the idea of repro, especially the Star Wars collectors. I've seen more and more unopened carded figures that have a snapped O-ring, etc. Yeah, 100%, Eric. I think everyone just needs to get used to the idea of repro. Like, as I said, I like to collect... when it comes to Action Man, as I said, I've got a few reproduction pieces. I mean, a few parts of the high altitude set here are from the 40th anniversary. But I would say that 90% of my collection, or probably even 95% of my collection, is original vintage. Not so much when it comes to other toy lines. Many of my Mego figures have got Dr. Mego reproduction accessories. It makes it more affordable for me. And yeah, there are people out there, a lot of people don't have an unlimited budget for vintage toys, and reproduction stuff opens the doorway for other people to get into the hobby without remortgaging their house to do it. So, Eric Stenberg, do you collect Bionic Man stuff? I do collect Bionic Man stuff. I don't have everything. I have quite a vast collection. But again, guys... I've done a few videos on Bionic Man, including an in-depth video on the full history of Bionic Man toys. It's about a 16-18 minute video. Guys, don't wait for YouTube to just suggest my videos when you're browsing. If you're interested in these kind of toys, go onto my channel page and go back through my back catalogue. I think I've got around 95 videos on YouTube now. covering everything from Mego, Masters of the Universe, Indiana Jones, A-Team, The Bionic Man, Rambo, G.I. Joe, Action Force, all sorts of stuff. I've got videos on loads of different lines from the 70s and 80s. Yeah, head over to the channel page and have a look through the catalogue. Tim Hayes, I like what Smith Lord is doing. 100%. I love what Smith Lord is doing. Check out the recent video I made while I was in Thailand. I was sitting on a balcony of the hotel room in Phuket and quickly put together a video for you guys. Advertising some fantastic new products coming out from Smith Lord Creations. So a big shout out to Chris Smith and Chris Khan from The Fan Strike Back. Excuse me for sniffing, guys. As I said, I've been unwell this week. I'm feeling better, but okay, we're coming up on about an hour and 10 minutes, so I better get stuck into the last couple of figures here. So this guy ranks very, very high in my favourites. This is the Action Man Long Range Desert Group outfit. Again, this is a figure that I have two of. As I said, many of the figures that I'm very fond of, I have two of. This came out in the late 70s and represents the Long Range Desert Group from World War II. So probably the first type of Special Forces unit that the British military ever had, where they would do long distance raids in North Africa and raids on like German airfields and stuff in North Africa. It's a fantastic outfit. He comes with his Thompson submachine gun. The back of the webbing has an entrenching tool incorporated into it and a commando dagger and sheath. It came as a carded outfit, not on a figure, so he didn't have to be on a bearded figure, but there's quite a famous photo of the Long Range Desert Group, a black and white photo from World War II where they're all in their jeeps, and all of the guys have beards. So most collectors today like to display this outfit on a bearded figure. It also has the, I don't know how well you can see that, there's a set of black parachute wings on the chest, which are the parachute wings that were later worn in the British military by SAS. So this is how the outfit came from Palitoy, but something that I really like to display with this figure is also the Lewis machine gun. And what I've done is I have made a custom British Tommy helmet where so the Action Man British Tommy helmet comes with sort of netting molded into the shape of the helmet. I've sanded back all the netting, sprayed it with an undercoat, and then sprayed it in a desert camouflage, so I can display one of these guys either with the helmet on or have the helmet hanging from his webbing. So that's a custom piece that I made. The Lewis machine gun was something that came on an accessory card back in the day, and I really like to display this outfit with those additional accessories. So yeah, so the Action Man Long Range Desert Group is really up in the top one or two outfits for me of all time. And weirdly, not an outfit that I even knew of when I was a child. I didn't have this as a kid. I didn't know of it. I didn't know about this until I got into collecting. But I really, really appreciate this outfit. Eric Stenberg, cool Lewis gun. Yes, it is very, very cool. Has a bipod, a sling, and a removable magazine. What we call a round, like drum style magazine. Okay, we're John Stinsman, such a classic looking British World War II desert uniform. So iconic. Yes, it is. So iconic, and that's probably one of the reasons that I like it. Bill Pagan, Tony, that one looks great. I can see why you collect these. Yeah, it really does look great. The level of detail that goes into these outfits really is, it's why I collect them. They are super cool. Okay, we got about 15 minutes left, guys, so I better talk to you about the last favourite figure that I have here. Eric Stenberg, did Action Man become more popular than G.I. Joe? That's hard for me to say because I don't live in the States. I think there have been times in history when the levels of popularity have been at the same height. I think the difference with Action Man is it outlived G.I. Joe by about 7 years. Its popularity was longer lasting, let's say, than G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe, the original 12-inch G.I. Joe, ended in 77, and Action Man lasted all the way through to 1984. So it was longer lasting. I wouldn't say it was more popular. That's a hard question to answer. Okay, so here we are, the very last of my Tony's favourite outfits is the Action Man SAS key figure, they call it, or it's just the SAS outfit. So in May of 1980, 5 terrorists took hold of the Iranian embassy in London and took a large number of people hostage. And there was a very infamous event where it was called Operation Nimrod, where the SAS quite publicly in the middle of London, in the middle of the day, with cameras filming, news cameras all over the world, the SAS stormed the Iranian embassy. I believe they killed 5 of the 6 terrorists and captured the 6th one or something like that. And that just propelled the Action Man, propelled the British SAS regiment into the public consciousness. And I still believe that it is the only toy line in history to have been inspired by a terrorist incident. And I'm quoting myself from my Action Man documentary here. Within months of the Iranian embassy siege, Palitoy released the SAS key figure. So the key figure came out first within a few months of the siege. So I've got the boxed one here. The reason I had that down here is these are my favourite outfits, but when it comes to my favourite boxed figures, this is probably my favourite boxed figure. There were 2 slight variations. So the key figure didn't come with the yellow rope and grappling hook or the belt with the pistol and holster as shown on this one here. So this one came on a carded outfit, and also the bulletproof vest was slightly different. So this one has metal poppers on the sides that hold it on. The one that came with the key figure had a little bit more detail in it, and there was sort of the straps that held it together were incorporated into the moulding of the bulletproof vest. So as I say, a lot of my favourite Action Man outfits I have 2 of. Well, this I have actually got, I've got 2 dressed and 2 boxed. So I've actually got 4 of these figures. That's how much I like it. This one here I picked up cheap a number of years ago because the box top is missing. Figure's nice and minty complete inside, but it was a bargain. I couldn't pass it up. But this one here in the display box is mint and unopened. So that's how much I like the SAS key figure. I've got 4 of them in my collection. Now I sound like I'm bragging, don't I? Yeah. So I don't mean to brag. I'm just sort of trying to articulate how much I really, really like this figure. In fact, the whole range of SAS, it was such a popular line that they came out with a helicopter, a dinghy, a parachutist, a diver. They even took the Action Man Talking Commander. I'm going to pull something else out from down here now. This is my second favourite boxed figure. Is the Action Man Talking... There was a number of Action Man Talking Commander figures, but this one came out in 1980... around 1980, I think. It doesn't say on there. This is one of my favourite boxes. But then in around 83, 84, the Action Man Talking Commander, right throughout the years, always had the badge of the 17th 21st Lancers on his officer's cap. And then in 1984, Palitoy released the Action Man Talking Commander with the SAS cap badge. It's very, very difficult to acquire today. But that's how popular the SAS range was. They took the long-running staple of the Action Man Talking Commander and then changed the cap badge to suit the Action Man SAS range. The whole combat team is just fantastic. All right, let's try and catch up with some questions here. I'm going to leave that guy at the front there so you can have a look at him. So this guy, he comes with the grey flash hood and the gas mask. Just an awesome figure. The Heckler & Koch MP5 machine gun. He comes with a black pistol and holster. I often like to display some of these figures. I have grenades on the belt, some I don't. But yeah, the grappling hook and the yellow rope, super cool figure. And it's really when Palitoy took this sort of World War II styled Action Man military concept and made it modern. It's the first time that they really brought out modern soldiers, and yeah, I just love the Action Man SAS line. I think it's super cool. Bill Pagan, nothing wrong with owning 4, brother. Remember, you're preserving these, so collect away, my friend. Thanks very much, Bill. I'd actually like to have 10 of them. Well, actually, I think I was watching a documentary the other day about the Iranian embassy siege, and I believe there was actually about 60 soldiers who stormed the building that day. So perhaps I need to collect about 60 of them and then buy a big doll's house and dress it up like the Iranian embassy and have 60 SAS troopers storming the building. Stuart Cullen, great stream, great live stream, and if you could pick an outfit that was never made for that range that you would like to see from any time frame of warfare, and not warfare especially. Any outfit that I would love to have seen made. Yes. That would be the Action Man Afrika Korps officer's uniform. There was a prototype shown in the 1981 Palitoy trade catalogue, but it never made it into full production. A lot of collectors out there have made customs, including myself. I'm going to quickly get up one more time. I've also made my own custom of that outfit. That is the Action Man Afrika Korps officer's uniform. Yeah, it was Palitoy made a full prototype of this. As I said, they advertised it in the 1981 Palitoy trade catalogue. And what I'll actually do, I've got a really high quality image of that prototype. I will put it up on the Facebook page later today. Yeah, so I've made my own custom of this. I really wish they had brought this out. They brought out an Afrika Korps Lance Corporal back in the late 70s. I really wish they had brought this outfit out to complement the Afrika Korps Lance Corporal. So I'm just going to put him down to one side. Eric Stenberg, did they ever make an SBS figure? Not quite. So they made an SAS diver, which, you know, potentially would really be an SBS figure, but they never actually, they just stuck with the SAS branding, never made an SBS figure. John Stinsman, wow, that's beautiful. Thank you very much, John. Peter Ang, well, I need to go. Just remember, Mumra will live again. Also, all hail to your Supreme Leader, Starscream. Okay, Peter Ang. Well, I'm going to wrap it up here in a few minutes anyway. So fire away with your questions, guys. We've got about 8 minutes left on the live stream. My cup of Tetley's Extra Strong tea has gone really cold now. So yeah, so those are my favourite Action Man outfits. I've got a lot more favourites. It's a very, as I said, if we sat down next week and discussed the same topic, I would probably have a completely different set of figures here. I think the ones that would always be here would be the Combat Soldier, the Long Range Desert Group, the SAS. Yeah, potentially if I came down next week, it might not be the Blues and Royals here, it might be the Lifeguard. It might not be the 17th, 21st Lancer. It might be the Argyle and Sutherland Highlander. I don't know. A couple of honourable mentions. Eric Stenberg, you rock. Right, thank you very much for that. Tony, do you have G1 Transformers? So JT Gamer is asking me if I have G1 Transformers. I have 2 in my collection. I have Optimus Prime and Megatron. I'm not really a big Transformers fan. These are the only 2 Transformers in my collection. I had Megatron as a kid. I wanted Optimus Prime, never had it, but I wasn't really into Transformers for very long as a kid. I did a video a while back. I like Transformers toys. I'm not really a fan of the mythology, the cartoon. I'm really not a fan of that. Not a very popular video that I made, but there you go. Gen X, is there no temptation to dive into the new lines of 1/6 and start customizing? Back in the early 2000s, I did for a while, but no, over the years I've dabbled in modern stuff, and I find that it doesn't hold my interest for long. I end up spending, not a fortune, but I spend a bit of money over a 6-month period or a year period collecting something modern, and then I just fall out of love with it and I get rid of it. When it comes to vintage stuff, I just never seem to fall out of love with it. So I've learned over the years to just be wise with my money. I mean, not that I think collecting toys is a wise decision when it comes to money, but I've just learned over the years that to stick to vintage, I don't fall out of love with the products, with the toys, and once I collect them, they stay in my collection. When I collect modern stuff, I always find, whether it's 6 months, a year, 2 years down the track, that I completely lose interest in it, and I end up reselling it, and often at a loss. So Tony, I've got to go, brother. Look forward to watching all of this tomorrow. Have a great weekend, Bill. No worries, Bill. Have a good night, mate. I'm going to wrap this up in about 5 minutes anyway. So pleasure to have you on here, mate. Glad to see you. Glad to see you checked in. JT Gamer, favorite Marvel hero. Hands down, favourite Marvel hero is the Incredible Hulk, and that really comes from my childhood memories of watching the Incredible Hulk TV show with Bill Bixby. As you can see, I've got a 12-inch Hulk here, loose, a 12-inch Hulk box, and I've got the 8-inch Mego Hulk carded and boxed, my favourite. Although that was probably my favourite childhood one. I've got to say today, like when you talk about the modern MCU movies, it's got to be Captain America. I love the way he's been portrayed over all these different movies by Chris Evans. I think he's certainly the best character in the modern MCU is Captain America, hands down. And the best movie is Winter Soldier, by the way. Uncle Deluxe, stick with what you love. It's a good life lesson in general. 100%, mate. Completely agree. Noah, hey Tony, would you ever consider collecting the Big Jim line? No, I'm not going to collect the Big Jim line. I don't have a childhood connection to it. But I mentioned earlier in the live stream that I would love to do a video on it, and it is possible because I've got a good friend in Perth who has quite an extensive, very minty collection of vintage Big Jim, and I'm sure he'd be more than happy for me to film his collection to make a video. So the next time I spend any decent amount of time down in Perth, I'll probably take my camera equipment with me and see if I can get a Big Jim video filmed using my good friend Neil's collection. So shout out to Neil Taylor. Review this. Do you have any toy tattoos? No, I don't. I have a lot of tattoos, no toy ones. However, I'm going to do a shout out now to Hooded Cobra Commander 788. He got a toy tattoo the other day. Head over to his Facebook page and you'll see what I'm talking about. Awesome tattoo. Big respect to Brian for getting that. I loved it. Joseph, mobile support vehicle was the Adventure Team rig. Thank you very much, Joseph. I knew you were going to be the man to tell me what it was called. Good night. Thanks, Joseph. Tony, may I ask what regiments you serve with? So in the Australian Army, I was a combat engineer in the Royal Australian Engineers. And then in the British military, I was an infantryman with the Princess of Wales Royal Regiment. And I did some other stuff. Do you think a Russian Spetsnaz figure would have sold? It probably would have sold. I don't think it's something they ever would have made. You need to understand, in the 80s, the Cold War, I don't think it would have been a wise choice to make a Russian Spetsnaz soldier for the Action Man line. Yorktown Joe, thank you, Tony. Have a great weekend. And you have a great weekend yourself, mate. Good night, Tony. Thanks for such a good stream. Thanks, Woodman29. Appreciate you being here. All right, 2 minutes to go. And I'm going to throw out an honourable mention very, very quickly. The Parachute Regiment. I have a number of different... I don't think I've got two of the same figure of these, but the Parachute Regiment was a very popular outfit that went on, for many years in the Action Man line. I've got about 4 different variations, but these are 2 of my favourites. So the later Eagle Eye variation, where he has the flexible PVC webbing and all the pouches on the back, is one of my favourites. But also one of the very early releases from 71, 72, I think. The set that had that it didn't come as a complete set. It came on a separate accessory card with the parachute pack and the shock helmet. The shock helmet is a very rare accessory, very hard to get, and I really love that. So I think I'm going to sign off now with my honourable mention of the Parachute Regiment. We've discussed some awesome Action Man figures today. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you guys, answering your questions. I really appreciate all of you jumping on, having a chat. I've really enjoyed this, and I look forward to the next live stream, which I think will be in about 3 weeks' time, hopefully at a new time for UK viewers to chime in. So, Michael Mercy, great show, Tony. Thanks for sharing your collection and all of your insight. Michael Mercy, thank you. It's always a pleasure to see you on here, good brother. I've been loving your content just lately. And I really hope that you enjoy Evel Knievel when it drops later this week. So I now need to get all of this stuff packed up. I'm going to get a quick little bit of breakfast, get downstairs into the studio. I need to move the table, the lights and all the camera gear back down there. And get filming the B-roll for Toy Histories episode 11 on Evel Knievel. So, all right. Thank you all for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next video coming later this week. Cheers. Now I have to get up and turn the camera off because I've got no one here to help me.